Live from Keene, New Hampshire, the most watched TV news show in Keene, the Keene Weekly News with Mark Edgington. Coverage of local and national events starts now.
Good evening. My name is Mark Edgington, and this is the Keene Weekly News. Today is June the 22nd, 2007. Let's get down to the news, shall we? It says there's widening confusion with the traffic widening. No doubt. Have you been out there and seen this catastrophe that is traffic in Keene this week? It says a long line of cars stretched down West Street from Route 12 over past the Island Street intersection around noon Wednesday. They failed to mention that there was a long line of cars stretching down from several intersections that are blocked off in Keene. I was just at the intersection of 12 and Winchester today, and it was all the way down to 101. It's a huge line of traffic. I can't believe that they decided to do these three projects at once, but it has made Keene just a terrible place to drive. I was listening to the radio over the weekend, and one of the Keene City Council people, Fred Parcells, he claimed that two of the projects, the ones out on basically the two Route 12 projects, those are state projects, and somehow the city isn't in any way implicated in those. Couldn't the city have found out the state was doing these and not started their own construction project in the process of it? I think it would have been better if we would have done these one at a time instead of all three at once, because it's so difficult to get around Keene. It's crazy. I've stopped driving. I use my bicycle. It's faster to get to work for me to ride my bicycle. And I may never drive a car again. It's been nice. It's pleasant. Maybe during the winter time I'll continue using a car, but right now I'm sticking with the bicycle. The little turnoff that they have into Hannaford's there on 12 coming from the eastbound lane, they've just built this thing. Boy, I don't see how any cars are going to line up in there. There's room enough for two cars. They're going to have cars jutting out into the traffic. This is a disaster. Keene City Council gives no help to the fire station. Apparently they were looking for a little over $300,000 to spruce up the current fire station, and the city council people decided that wouldn't fly this year. But they did pass $48.4 million budget. $48.4 million. A few years ago, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, housing prices in Keene were almost half of what they are now. City taxes are based on millage points. That's 0.1% for those of you who don't know. So that means that their budgets were about half of what they are now. How in the world did we function with, did the city manage to function with half the money? Well, it seems like now they're just rolling in the dough, and they're just building new jails, and they're expanding roundabouts, and they're just doing any old thing they possibly can with this money. Not like it's yours. Sure would be nice if they just sent us back the overage. Oh, we don't need this money. We're not going to build anything. We're not going to waste your money. We'll just send it back to you. Wouldn't that be nice? I don't think that's going to happen. Not unless we see some real change in the Keene City Council. This is from last week, but since I wasn't here last week, I was ill. I think everybody's coming down with it. I just had to bring this one up. The stabbing case against this Vargas guy, 29 of Mexico, has been dropped. Is this the craziest case you've ever seen? Something's wrong here. I'm not saying Vargas is guilty. I don't know. But it said Cheshire County Attorney Peter W. Heed said Thursday he's dropped the prosecution of Sergio A. Vargas, who was accused of stabbing 20-year-old Angela Miller last month in Keene's Ashuelot River Park. Vargas, 29, of Mexico, was arrested within hours of the stabbing and charged with first-degree assault. Apparently they used a dog to tracked right back to where Vargas was. He had blood on his hands and his shirt. Does this seem strange to anybody but me? Apparently the DNA said that it wasn't her blood. Why did he have blood on his hands and his shirt? Why did the dog track back to him? I would love to find out what happened in this story, because it's just a mystery to me. Manchester. Lawyers for a man accused of shooting and killing a Manchester police officer argue the state should abolish the death penalty because it offends contemporary standards of decency and amounts to cruel and unusual punishment. New Hampshire has not executed anyone since 1939, but two men currently face capital murder charges. Antonio Addison, of 27, was charged with shooting Manchester police officer Michael Briggs in the head last October. The other, John J. Brooks, is accused of hiring a man to help kill Jack Reed in 2005. In a motion filed Thursday, Hillsborough County Superior Court, Addison's lawyers said Massachusetts abolished the death penalty in 1980, and it is as offensive to contemporary standards of decency, and that's because New Hampshire's constitution is based on Massachusetts. It should do the same. Well, I'm not sure that I think that because Massachusetts abolished the death penalty that New Hampshire should. And I've got to say that it's very difficult to defend people, that have the death penalty against them because, well, they're all a bunch of killers. I would, however, say that 121 people have been released from death row since 1971. And the reason they've been released is because they've been absolved of their crimes. They haven't been returned to regular population. They've been released from prison, that number, 121. That says to me that we've made some mistakes along the way, 121 of them. But if we made 121 mistakes, how many people have we actually executed in the United States since 1971 who've been innocent of their crimes? I don't know. We'll never know. Certainly there's no huge investigation into these things, and it's very difficult when you've got cold cases. But when you deal with something that's as permanent as the death penalty, you can't bring somebody back. If they're in prison, you can let them out. But if they're dead, you can't do anything about it. You've killed them. I've got to say that it's not worth it to me to execute people that are disgusting people that are guilty of murder in order, if we're going to execute some innocent people. It's just not okay. I think the death penalty is fine as soon as humans become perfect. Before then, I don't think we should be doing it. It seems to me that some innocent people are getting it. I don't think that Michael Addison, 27, is one of them, but I got to say that death penalty, it's not a good idea. Innocent people die. Can't take it back. How many people are we willing to kill in order to keep the death penalty, really, is my question. On a lighter note, looks like Tristan Smith has won a state competition. The New Hampshire Music Teachers Association held its annual Granite State auditions April the 14th, Plymouth State University, and Tristan Smith was chosen as the winner of the Piano Junior B competition. Smith is a student at Kristen Stevenson, an active member of the association. It's great. Congratulations, Tristan. More fun news. Animal rights activists free Bulgaria's last 3 dancing bears. After a lifetime of brutal treatment, including walking on burning embers, Bulgaria's last 3 dancing bears will get to rest their paws in a mountain sanctuary, an apparent end to centuries-old performance tradition in the Balkans. Well, I guess gypsies, who'd have known that there were gypsies, train their bears by putting them on hot embers or a hot piece of metal and beating a drum until the bear begins to associate the drum with the sort of dancing motion, and that's how they teach bears to dance. And Bulgaria. It sounds cruel, I gotta say, and I like bears as much as the next person. What scares me about laws against animal cruelty is that as much as I love animals and as nice as I am to them, ask my big fat cat, Senior Grouchy Pants, all he does is lay around the house. Nothing. Doesn't do anything. I'm kind of mean to some animals, like every day. I was mean to some scallops at lunch today. I was mean to a cheeseburger last night. That cheeseburger came from a cow. It scares me because what one person's rule for cruel is might be another person's, what makes perfectly good sense to them. It makes perfectly good sense to me to eat animals. Some people don't, and they think it's cruel. And it scares me, these laws against animal cruelty, because where's it all end? Is the next thing going to be outlawing hamburgers? We got to be nice to animals with fur. We got to be nice to all animals. We got to be nice to the plants. Pretty soon we'll have nothing to eat. There are people out there called fruitarians. Fruitarians, unlike vegetarians, because most vegetarians will eat milk, which they got by molesting a cow, cheese, molesting cows, eggs, stealing the embryos of chickens. Vegetarians get their protein in different ways. There's vegans who don't mess with anything that has anything to do with animals. Of course, they usually are anemic and die. But there's these fruitarians. Fruitarians don't believe in messing with plants. You heard me right. They won't eat anything unless it actually has fallen off of a tree. The only thing they really eat is fruit that's fallen off of a tree. Where does it all end? Those people probably think it's cruel and unusual to harvest wheat, eat bread. Animal cruelty. It's a shame that old bear's all chained up and stuff. More animal news. Wyndham. The critters aren't using the tunnel under the highway. Go figure. The state's first tunnel designed for amphibian traffic isn't getting much use. The state spent $25,000 to build the tunnel under Route 11 bypass that will open later this year. The goal was to give salamanders, frogs, and other critters a safe way to get around without becoming roadkill. But state officials say that hasn't happened yet. While there's some evidence that skunks, muskrats, and other mammals have been using the tunnel, the amphibians it was designed for are staying away, probably because it's filled with skunks and muskrats that'll eat them. Lori Sommer of the Department of Environmental Services said the state knew it would be a long shot to get the reptiles and amphibians to use the tunnel, but it's too early to declare the test a failure. A long shot. They spent $25,000 on a long shot? If I spent $25,000 on a long shot, my wife would kill me. These people don't care about spending your money. As far as they're concerned, it's their money. They can do whatever they want with it, and they'll build amphibian tunnels under the road with it if they feel like it. $25,000 worth. I think you want to give it a couple of seasons, she said. I think it's just a possibility, part of our responsibility to protect the environment, of course. Bill Cass of the Department of Transportation agreed that the experiment was worth a try. Of course he did. It wasn't his $25,000. It was ours. Even if the frogs aren't flocking to the site, so what? It's just $25,000. We should have tried it. The DOT agreed to try it in this one place as a trial and monitor it. Proposed to putting them all over the place without, I would assume that's opposed to putting them all over the place, without really knowing whether they'll work or not, he said. We're getting good data on what works and what doesn't. So it's very worthwhile to that degree. We put a big tunnel under the road for $25,000 and it's not working, and we're glad we know. With federal and state mandates for wetlands migration, highway planners routinely try to minimize impact on local wildlife whenever building new projects. Something they didn't even consider decades ago, Cass said. Somerset divisions consulted with experts on amphibian crossings in New England. There's people that are experts in amphibious crossings in New England in planning for the tunnel, but she said some construction mistakes may be discouraging the target species from using the tunnel. Yeah, they don't like the way it looks. With small mammals using the tunnel, you may be creating a path for the salamanders with a raccoon at the end of it. I guess raccoons eat salamanders. Who'd have known? This is great. This is the perfect kind of crap that they waste our money on. We should not be giving these people any money at all. When it's tax time, we should say, no, we're not giving you any. Remember the salamander tunnel? National news. The House has voted to delay the passport rules. For those of you who didn't know, the passport it's required to have a passport, or was required until they delayed the rules, to have a passport to go from either Mexico, Canada, Bermuda, Bahamas, any place where you used to be able to just go with a driver's license. Now you have to have a passport, or you will in 2 years, because they just changed the rules. And they're probably going to change the one that says, now even if you're driving to Canada or Mexico, good luck driving to the Bahamas, by the way, even if you're driving to Canada or Mexico, you'll need a passport in the beginning of next year, which they'll probably back that off 2 years too. Why? Well, because the passport office can't handle all the requests for passports. It's just too much for them. You know, it has nothing to do with keeping us safe, as though this was going to keep us safe. I mean, if September 11th changed everything, which I'm not sure it did, if it changed everything, how come we've managed to make it until June the 22nd, 2007 without another terrorist attack, even though you can come across the border from Canada, Mexico, the Bahamas, or Bermuda without a passport? Is a passport really going to stop terrorists? Because as far as I remember, the terrorists from 9/11 had all their papers in order. Terrorists are going to have their papers in order. All this is going to do is annoy American citizens, annoy them thoroughly. And I'm sure we have to hire more bureaucrats to check passports. God knows. It'll be just like the TSA. It'll be a bunch of people standing around, and the ones that aren't standing around are harassing the crap out of you. We do not need this. This is a waste of our time. Well, anyway, they're giving us another 2 years before we have our papers in order. They should require that everybody at the border who's checking for passports has a German accent. Nice thick one, like from Stalag 13. Papers, please. Here's a little editorial somebody wrote in to the Keene Sentinel. Underage drinking is a problem, it's entitled. Graduation is an exciting, momentous event for high schoolers, and many celebrate these occasions at parties with friends and family. While we want our teenagers to enjoy this time to the fullest, we also want them to be sure to continue to make smart, responsible decisions surrounding these events, including not drinking when underage or getting into a car with a teen who has been drinking. As though driving and drinking are somehow connected. I mean, haven't lots of teens drank and not drove? I don't know. Anyway, when it comes to influencing teens about important decisions such as these, it's parents who have the power. I think society has a role too. I think that having the drinking age at 21, I mean, these teens are going through a rite of passage. They're graduating high school, and they're feeling a little more adult, so they're going to want to do adult things. I think that having the age at 21 is a mistake. In Europe, in Ireland, for instance, you can go up to the bar and 7 years old, and order a beer. If you're man enough to order a beer, you can order a beer at the bar. Now, the bartender doesn't have to serve you, and likely will not if you're 7 years old, but there is no drinking age. And they don't have near the teen drinking problems that we do. Why? Because it's not against the law. They don't have near the teen drunk driving problems. Why? Because teens are trusted to make their decisions on their own, and they don't have to hide that they're drinking. That's part of the whole drinking and driving thing, is that they're hiding what they're doing. I think we should do away with all drinking laws in this country. It's really just colonial puritanism, and it doesn't solve the problem. If teens learn how to drink, if kids learn how to drink in their homes from early ages, they'll be far less likely to make stupid decisions like driving when they're 17 years old or 18 years old at their graduation. I think that if they learn slowly, there'll be less likely to be huge repercussions at graduation time. It is really tragic because every year you'll read about some teen who's drank, drove, and died right at their graduation time. When they should be starting their life, it's over. It's sad, but I think really what it is that we're not giving them a chance to be adults. Send them off to war, send them off to fight wars for fat white politicians in Washington, but they can't drink a beer. Laconia. Bike Week has its ups and downs. Well, it's newspaper. It's got to be bad news, right? Apparently, there's been more people than ever went to Laconia this year, and they spend all kinds of money. So, I got to say, great. Businesses and vendors were offered mixed reviews of the Motorcycle Week. Organizers said the annual event ended on a high note thanks to a surge in attendance that accompanied the sunnier weather. So good weather in the weekend saved the whole Laconia event, and I think it's a very good thing. Does it really matter that nobody came out on Thursday, on Wednesday? People have to, people have to work. Mideast Peace Summit set Monday. They're going to talk peace in the Mideast. That'll work. This is great. YMCA leader loses her job over a field trip. Where do you think she decided to take the little kiddies? YMCA's community research director has resigned after an after-school program run by the organization with the Manchester School District ended up taking some middle school students to Planned Parenthood. The director, Planned Parenthood does some really great stuff. I'm not going to say they don't. I also think that they sort of have an agenda, and taking a middle school field trip to Planned Parenthood probably wasn't the brightest idea. Well, I'm sure Joyce had her heart in the right place. Another little editorial from Brian Drummond, Joffrey. Well, I'm here worrying about my health and wondering why China is putting antifreeze in my toothpaste. Ed Brown sits in Plainfield with an awful lot of guns pointed at him. In this state where personal freedom and the use of seatbelts seem to be our greatest political concern, man has been surrounded by SWAT teams who have shot at and arrested someone for walking his dog. The authorities are also keeping a heavily armed eye on his wife's empty dental practice. They are there to arrest Ed and his wife Elaine for tax evasion. They are there to seize the couple's property with enough artillery to make one ask, "Got enough dynamite there, Butch?" I have to agree with Brian. Ed Brown has not hurt anyone. I don't see why we have some kind of armed force out trying to take him in. He hasn't hurt anyone. Let's wait until he does. And it's getting into primary season here in New Hampshire. I love the little saying, in Iowa they pick corn, New Hampshire we pick the president. They're out there at nearly half of the electorate. They're ready to shape the outcome of the next New Hampshire presidential primary. And every candidate is hustling for their support. They are the undeclared voters, commonly called independents. I guess that's one of me. I'm undeclared. I'm one of them. I'm undeclared. They account for 44% of registered voters, the largest block of New Hampshire's electorate. New Hampshire's always been that way. We sort of think independently. State law makes it easy for independents to participate in either party's primary election. All you have to do, if you're registered to vote, and basically all you have to do is walk into the voting establishment that day. They'll register you to vote that day. You can declare your party. You can vote in whatever party you want to vote in. Then you can walk out and say, "I'd like to be undeclared again. Please re-register me undeclared." So you don't have to be a Republican, you don't have to be a Democrat, and you can walk right in the day of. You don't have to register months in advance. So it looks like everybody from McCain to Clinton are trying to get the votes. I got to say, I'm pulling for Ron Paul, and he's a Republican. He's a member of the House, United States House, and he wants to get us out of Iraq. As a matter of fact, he's one of the very few candidates out there that says that he wants to end the war immediately. And I've got to say, he's the only Republican. There's very few Democrats that want to do that. Clinton doesn't want to do it. She voted to take us in there. So Ron Paul's the way I'm going to go. This weekend, up at Lake Winnipesaukee, there's an event called Pork Fest going on. All you have to do is check out PorcFest, that's PORCFEST.com, and you can get all the information. Big camping event, lots of people there, people that love freedom, having a good time. There'll be some shooting events and some seminars, so if you get a chance, check it out. It's only a 2-hour drive. I'll be up there, as will my wife, my lovely wife. Another article talking about the primary importance of New Hampshire. You know, a lot of presidential elections have been determined here in the state. As a matter of fact, you could pretty much guarantee if you win the New Hampshire primary for your party that you're going to go on to be the big candidate that they're going to be fighting against. The other party's going to be fighting against. So think wisely and remember Ron Paul at this time. My name's Mark Edgington. This is the Keene Weekly News. Today is June the 22nd. I want to thank you for watching.